think we're on. Look,
Being live streamed.
are we?
That's what it says.
Ooh. Let me just have a look on here. I need to go to my live recording. There we go. Hello, YouTube. Please bear with us while we just sort. Find an easier way to share it onto all the social. Figure that out. Oh, it's exciting
Nice.
times. Right, let's do it. Hello and welcome to the Everything F1 podcast. My name is Coops and I'm here with another James or Jamie. It's James.
James,
Hello.
yeah, James.
Yeah.
How
That
we
was an
doing?
introduction that landed as flat as Oscar Piastri's Baku Grand Prix.
There
That
you go.
did
You brought
not
it
work
back
well.
though. You brought
Yeah,
it back though. You got it
I
back to
did.
Formula One. And it was just thrown off because no one ever calls me Jamie. So that really just sort of stunned me for a
Yeah.
second. But it's all good.
Coops, James, Jamie. I get called James. I'm like, I'm not your butler. My name's Jamie. Come on, chill, man. Not that every James is a butler. I
It's all
just
good.
associate that with
I'm not
butlers.
about that, so it's all good. Yeah, it's all
It
good.
is all good. How are you getting on?
Yeah.
How's things?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Usual busy Monday, but always up for talking a bit of F1. Not the most exciting race, but I'm sure we'll get into it. We will, and yeah, it's always good fun chatting a bit of F1. But how about you, lad? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm kind of getting over a bit of the lurgy. Got
Mm,
that started brewing around Tuesday, Wednesday, and then kind of hit me full on over the last couple of days. So I had a couple of days off
uh,
work, which for any normal day
nice.
that'd be quite good, but it wasn't for
Yeah.
me because I just
Mm,
felt awful. Uh,
yeah.
and yeah, just kind of tried to keep on top of the football, well, football as well. My team was playing on Friday night, and we got put out of the cup. So
Oof.
there you go. We haven't won a penalty shootout since 19. We've won it once since 1990, and we didn't win it on Friday on the penalties. So well, at least we're keeping a
Blimey.
tradition. Yeah, yeah, we're not good when it comes to that. And yeah, just kept on top of the Formula One. I think the most exciting part of the weekend was qualifying.
Mm.
Moved. Uh, Rumor has it the FIA are having to look to get some new red flags because they have been worn out.
Right
Uh,
out.
that was impressive, and
Mm.
we'll get into it a bit more. But my overriding feeling was that the race was going to be probably boring because everything happened in qualifying, and I was kind of right.
Yeah, you were
So, like,
very
before
right.
we get into the nuts and bolts and kind of have a look at everything that happened, what's your overriding feeling from the Grand Prix?
Processional. Um, wasn't the most exciting race. I must admit, I thought even though qualifying was crazy and was very exciting, I thought the grid that it set up would have given us a good race. I thought there could be, some faster cars coming from lower down positions, and
Hmm.
but I just don't think that they obviously well, they didn't turn out that way, and I think it's because of the DRS. I think I know Lando used that as an excuse for why he didn't get too far up the field, but partly I agree with him. I think even just down the field, I think the DRS is so powerful and back even with a smaller, the low downforce rear wings they're all running. It seems like you just have to just scrape to get a second, within a second on the final corner, and then you're basically like 2/10 back when he gets the first corner, and then he sort of drags you, and then the next one drags you along as well. So I think that just created those trains. It probably saved you like 6, 7 tenths a lap. So we just didn't quite see, the gaps opening, or when it did, people just couldn't quite get close, or there was a battles of three when the one just couldn't quite get, couldn't the one in the middle couldn't quite get into the one in the front. But yeah, unfortunately, a bit processional. All the action happened on Saturday, like you said. And there was a bit of an inevitability about who was going to win it from Saturday, I think, as well. And they came through with that as well. So yeah, not the best, not one I'd be raring to watch again.
Yeah, definitely. After the first lap, that was kind of the drama over with, and the excitement. And yeah,
Yeah.
once the Max got himself in a decent position, I think I'm kind of the same as you. I'm like, yeah, it's when McLaren's don't quite fire on point, we know who's pretty much stepping up to the point where he's now got an outside chance to get himself involved in the
Mm,
drivers' championship conversation. Who knew? With like
yeah.
7 races to go and 3 sprints, that Max would drag himself into that. I mean, if he pulls this off,
It's the best
and
championship.
it's the best championship he's
Yeah.
won. And has
Mm.
anybody Indy's bottle dropped worse than McLaren? If that happened, like that's some serious issues because they has to.
Yeah. So,
Max isn't going to win this on his own. There has to be more to
mm,
it. We'll discuss that later on. We're going to get
yeah.
into it. Before we get into the full kind of Grand Prix review and discuss it, my name's Coops. This is James. We are Everything F1. We are on all the socials, including, I was going to say Snapchat. We're not on Snapchat. Don't know why that came up. It just popped into my head. We're on X, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and I think and Facebook. Yeah, I've got them all. We are at Join EF1, and as usual, I cannot remember the one for TikTok. It's either EF1 official or official EF1. Even if I remember it, that's going to be my go-to line. So back to it. So the Baku Grand Prix was on at the weekend there, as we've just touched on. There were 6 red flags over the course of qualifying, which ironically meant that qualifying was longer than the Monza Grand Prix was. Wow. It was about an hour and 40 odd minutes with all the breaks and stuff like that to get it sorted. What transpired was a race that finished with Max Verstappen on top, Carlos Sainz in second, and
Mm.
George Russell in the top three.
Other way around.
Uh,
Other way around. Russell came second.
I wrote that wrong. I was writing my list and I've wrote that wrong way around. So yeah, it was Russell got second, and Carlos Sainz got third. Hey, smooth operator, regardless of whether it's second or third.
Oh
It
yeah.
doesn't matter. First
Mm.
Vamos, first smooth operator for Williams. Probably his best podium, he says there.
Yeah.
I was giving him a wee bit more because I was quite excited to see it. You
Yeah,
know,
that's fair enough.
Carlos,
I think he
Sainz,
deserves it, to be fair. He deserves
to
it.
be fair. Carlos, if you want to send me something for can I try to get you into second, you
Mm.
can, Uh, but I know you won't because we know he doesn't watch the pod.
You never know.
I've heard Max does. Hi Max.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've kind of got your kind of overall feelings. I think we're going to have to go to McLaren first because
Mm.
that's the main conversation over the weekend. We have to have a look at what happened there. Just for those who didn't know, Oscar Piastri had some issues in qualifying. I ended up qualifying, I want to say ninth,
Yeah. Yeah, ninth.
and then jumped to start, stopped so that he didn't get a penalty because he was a bit eager. Went into anti-stall, ended up last, 5 corners later, in the wall. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, this is a guy who has not made a mistake all season. Not even one. Not put a slight tire on the wall, not put a wee thing in the, nothing that's going to cause any major issues. Nothing that we were like, oh my goodness, what did he do? Maybe a slight mistake in terms of trying to pass. So I think it was Hungary or Austria. I think he tried to, I think it was both actually,
Both.
where he,
Yeah.
where he kind of tried to dive in and had to lock the brake. He was a wee bit close. Wouldn't really say there were mistakes necessarily. But man, has he made up for it in Baku this weekend. To the point that our colleagues over at the race.com, when they do their driver reviews, they put him 20th.
Hmm.
Haven't read the rest, I just noticed that was 20th because that was a big deal. What did you make of Oscar? So I'm right in saying he nailed it into the barrier in qualifying.
Turn three. Yeah.
Turn three, yep. So
Mm.
made an absolute arse of it there. Got himself ninth, which isn't too bad when you crash in qualifying. You're like, okay, fine. One of the better cars on the grid. And it just went wrong for the minute the lights didn't go out. So, what's your thoughts on Oscar? Is this a chink? Is this just an off weekend? What do you think?
Oh, it's a tricky one. I think it's just probably an off weekend, I must admit, because I think he looked it looked a struggle for him all weekend. I think Lando looked the faster McLaren driver in general. There was an issue. Oscar missed a good half hour of FP1 and never quite really got on form this weekend. I think both accidents were quite similar. It looks like he's probably gone in a bit too fast into the corner. But there wasn't one thing I found interesting. There wasn't really like a screeching lockup in either of them. You think about Leclerc's crash as it turned 16, the tricky left-hander. There was a big screeching lockup, lots of smoke coming off the tire, and he crashed into the barriers. Both of Oscars, there wasn't really a massive. I'm not going to say massive effort, but there wasn't seemingly like a huge braking, trying to elude the wall, which was interesting. But I think very windy conditions, lots of drivers going off. Um, with these six red flags. Qualifying, I think he probably just, I think the data showed that braked a little bit later than his previous lap. Maybe he thought the soft tires were going to give him more grip. It didn't, and he just found himself in the barrier. The problem with Baku, similar to like Monaco, is if you do make a small mistake like that, the barrier is right there and it's going to take you out. So I think he just found that in both of them. I think you described it beautifully on our Slack channel around it, basically looking like we're driving on Formula One games, because you're absolutely right. How many times have you started, say you're on like easy or medium mode, for example, you decide I'm going to start ninth or whatever, you think you're going to absolutely barrel roll everyone, you make a little mistake, you fall to the back, and then you try and just like, oh, I can take everyone around you try and
Yep.
outbreak everyone around the outside, and it doesn't work, you crash into the barrier and you restart the race, you're like, okay, I'm going to be more sensible here.
Yep.
I think that's exactly what happened there. An
Hmm.
uncharacteristic mistake, anticipating the lights. I think could this be a little bit of championship pressure potentially? It's coming to the crunch end of the season. He's probably thinking, let's get a really good start here. Maybe get the teammate into turn one. Those things may have crossed his mind, and he jumped the start, which is happens every now and again. And I think he just maybe underestimated the dirty air or broke little bit later into the corner, and the barrier was right there. So. It's unfortunate for him. Luckily, his teammate wasn't able to capitalize. I'm sure we'll get to that as well. But it does show a hole in the armor slightly, because everyone that's been Oscar's biggest characteristic in this title fight, apart from Australia, where he slid off in very tricky conditions. That he hasn't been making mistakes and hasn't really cost him. And this time, it could have cost him a whole lot more. Two mistakes in 2 days isn't very good at all, I must admit, for a championship contender. But these things do happen. When it dents his confidence going to Singapore, where again the walls are very close, you never know. But yeah, just a scruffy weekend all round. One he'd probably quite like to forget, but he's got that buffer, so it's not the end of the world for him. But very uncharacteristic, and I think it's probably the two McLaren boys are suddenly thinking, all right, it's getting close now, which I think could help Max in the title fight. Not that I think he could get back into it potentially, but I think that's probably what it is. Every driver goes through it the first time they go. It doesn't matter how cool and calm and collected you are. That championship's
Yeah.
looming, and he's going to think about it. I think probably this is a little bit of that.
I mean, in all fairness, probably three mistakes if you think about the hat
Yeah,
the
yeah,
because
true.
if he didn't do the false start, I don't think he would have hit the wall. I think he
No,
would have
I
just kind
think
of
you're right there.
bid
Yeah.
himself in and thought, right, let's see what I can do. Is have a look at the
Mm.
pit stops,
Because all
and
he has
take
to
it
really
from
do
there.
is tail. All he really has to do is follow his teammate. Like realistically, he didn't have
Hmm.
to do anything crazy. If his teammate's right in front of him, he just needs to minimize the points loss. If get ahead of him, great. But he didn't have to go, hell for leather. His teammate's
No,
it's not like his teammate's on pole or anything, is it? So yeah, he got away with
yeah,
it really. So
he did because that was an opportunity for Lando to really close the gap. He was
mm,
31 points behind, I think it was, coming into this
yeah,
weekend. He qualified seventh and finished. Let me just see if I get this right. He finished
seventh as
seventh,
well. Yeah,
and that's not very many points. I can't remember off the top of my head how many points that is. Uh,
six.
I think something like that. So he's still about a race one behind, give or take. Um, I did put it up as on the socials. We'll get to that later as we just check the socials and see if there's any comments. But I did put that up onto our socials about whether this was a missed opportunity for Lando. I think it is.
Mm,
Personally, I think in this sort of when you've got a teammate who's more or less unflappable until this weekend, the most flappable thing was I think was there not like a red light somewhere in one of the tracks earlier on in the season. It was
Mm.
Miami or something like that, and
No, it was Saudi Arabia.
Saudi, that's what it was.
Mm.
And he mentioned it, and he seemed a bit kind of, everyone's like, oh, he does have emotions. Wow. Uh, and then you get to a weekend where he is flappable. He has these issues, and the championship contender against him only manages to secure 6 points. To me, that I think Norris will be kicking himself that he wasn't be able to push himself that bit further. But Andrea Stella has come out and said that the car wasn't fast enough once they were stuck in that kind of DRS train, and they were all saying you're going to be able to pass, and then you got to the race weekend and you just couldn't do it over the race. Sorry, not the race weekend. And so things conspired against them.
Mm.
What do you think? Do you think, Nora, that was an opportunity missed for Lando? Do you think he's going to get more?
100% of opportunity missed. And I think as much as I'm a McLaren fan, I love Lando Norris, but I think you've got to look at it objectively. I know he came out and said, DRS training, it was hard to get past me, which is absolutely fair enough. Should we have gone out first? And I don't know if they really should have been on used soft tyres in that final run in Q3 anyway. You might say, oh, he's looking at it philosophically, but objectively, you have to say, well, this is a missed opportunity. Doesn't matter whose fault it was. McLaren could have had a quicker stop to get him in front of Tsunoda and Lawson potentially. Towards the end, maybe got fifth, but it is a missed opportunity in a car that is the first or second best car in these conditions, for example. Because I think they are the runaway best car at the moment. In these sort of low downforce, low grip conditions, it does seem to swap around a little bit, but 100% it's a missed opportunity because your main championship rival, you knew after that safety car he wasn't going to score points, and he really knew he was going to start ninth, and as high as ninth in qualifying after he crashed. And I think those are the times when you've got to capitalize. Like if you want to be world champion, these are the things you have to take. And I think we look back into the championships previously. Verstappen would have taken this chance. The best drivers put it on pole or put it up right there. I think back to 2021 where Verstappen crashed, when he was leading the race in Azerbaijan early on in the season. Then Lewis red flagged the race. Perez was on pole. Lewis was on second. Lewis Hamilton was at second, and he had that whole magic button. He went straight on. It's not like we wouldn't say him. We wouldn't. It's not like we said then. Oh, if it'd be philosophical if he just pressed the button, it'd be fine. We think, well, that is a missed opportunity. And
Hmm.
if Lewis hadn't pressed the magic button, he would have won that championship because that would have been 25 more points than Verstappen got, and he didn't get any of that race. So you look at it like
Yep.
that. You have to look at it as it is a missed opportunity because one driver didn't score any points, and you wasn't, and you didn't get as many as you really should do because that
Yep.
car should be on a podium. So unfortunate for him, but 100% it's a missed opportunity. And these are the instances where I know Lando's probably got more of them this season. Looking back, you think those are the times that you've dropped points and it's going to cost you at the end of the season, unfortunately. So yeah, 100% a missed opportunity. Whatever they try and rationalize it out, which is fair enough. They're going to try and do. They're going to try and protect him, but yeah, it's massively missed opportunity.
Yeah, Lando was asked that question, and he's quoted as saying, "I'm doing the best I can in every race." Uh, if you look at that, every race I finished second or worse this year was an opportunity lost. I don't really care how people look at it.
Hmm. And
Mm,
I get what he's coming. I get what he's saying. Is that you've just got to. But that's the sort of mentality he has to have. He can't get down on himself and say, "Oh, it's a massively missed opportunity," and get bogged down in it. He has to sort of move on and say, "Okay, on to the next one." I think that's completely fair enough. But for us outside of the seat, outside the championship, looking in, it is a missed opportunity. Just like crashing in Saudi Arabia was a missed opportunity when he should have got a podium there. They're all. I think he's completely right. They are missed opportunities, but this is just quite a big glaring one in that. If you're going to rank them, this is quite high up. You know.
yeah, and maybe you do say that. Maybe you take the pressure off yourself by just
Mm,
saying, "Yeah, it was," and
yeah. Mm,
be a bit more philosophical about it and saying, maybe there'll be another opportunity down the line. It's a long season, but yeah, you're probably right. This could be, but we'll see that at the end of the season. I
mm,
think sometimes he doesn't help himself with some of the ways he comes across. I remember watching that quote. It was in the pen. I remember watching the way he said it, and I just thought, you're being a bit of an arse. Like, being a bit
mm,
twatty with your comment. You're like, they're asking a question. You know that's a question that's going to be asked because you know yourself. That's to me it was a very defensive reaction because he knows it was an opportunity missed and he's trying to put a front on it, but you're not really. coming across particularly genuine with it. Like rather than just saying, "Yeah, you're right, it probably is." However, there'll be opportunities. It's up to me to create my opportunities, and we'll move on.
Mm.
And folk will be like, "Ah, it's
Yeah.
fine," but just
Yeah.
a wee bit twatty with it.
I don't know. I think you damned if you do, damned if you don't. A little bit as a Formula One driver, especially Lando Norris, when he's come out and been quite self-critical of himself, and people say, "Oh, it's a weakness." And if he comes out defensive, people say, "Well, I think in that regard, you sort of have to just defend yourself in that instance." I think I can see where he's coming from.
Hmm.
Because if he'd gone, "Oh yeah, it was a massive missed opportunity," you know what the headlines are going to be: Lando, massive, massive missed opportunity, and they're going to get down. So I think it's a little bit damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
But we can say as impartial observers that I think there is a missed opportunity, and he has to deal with it the way he's going to deal with it. And that's absolutely fine. He's got to try and G himself back up. But I think 100% it is a missed opportunity. Like objectively, we'd say that about any person in that car. You know what I mean? If it was in the same position. So yeah.
Impartial we are here, says my colleague across from me here, while he's wearing a Lando Norris McLaren t-shirt, for anyone not watching on the YouTube stream.
I feel like I've been quite fair
Yes, yes.
there.
I just had to add
Fair.
that in for full on comedy value.
I was
Thought it was quite funny.
wearing for support, you know what I mean?
Oscar, we've touched on McLaren. It's not often that we have these conversations about McLaren in such a negative light.
Mm,
Wee thing in his favour though, another botched pit stop for him instead of
mm,
2 seconds. It was four that lost him.
mm.
That dropped him behind Sonoda and Lawson. And because he dropped behind that, it gets stuck in a bit of a DRS train. Lawson
Yeah,
drove really well in terms of defensive driving, could not get past him. So
yeah,
he's lost himself a bundle of points because he would have been right up behind Antonelli, and it would have been a decent wee fight
yeah.
with Antonelli there if he was able to get up close to him without that kind of DRS train. Um, so the team have to look at a few things. I think it was the front right, for whatever reason, their system has lights on the gun. They put it on, it didn't change the light system. If the light doesn't change, it doesn't get the green light. It's all kind of connected
Yeah.
now. So it took a couple of tries, 4 seconds they were waiting for. Uh,
Mm,
so again, few wee opportunities missed here or there within the drivers of the team, and they didn't quite have the speed in the car to really do anything with it to get themselves back to the front.
yeah.
So we'll go to the top three now. So we'll go from third to first. Third place was Carlos Sainz, not Russell, as I said earlier on. Uh, Carlos had a great weekend, got himself up there. At one point, was looking for pole until Max Verstappen came in at the last second. He was joined up at the front after qualifying with Hadjar and
Lawson.
Lawson. They were up there
Mm.
as well. They done a great session as well. Uh, what do you make of Carlos? Weirdly, Carlos being up there, we didn't really see much of him, and I became
Mm.
very Scottish when I just said that there. I just heard it in my ear. But yeah, we didn't really see much of him. Same as Max,
No.
which we'll touch on shortly. Got himself up to third place and pretty much stayed there. And on
Mm.
merit, I mean, there wasn't shenanigans that gave him that breathing space, or he was doing like an Alonso at Hungary a few years back, doing the defensive driving. He just cruised off and spent an hour and a half watching Max Verstappen's gearbox and quite happily getting on with it. What did you make of
Mm.
Carlos, and what are we thinking of Williams and their upturn in fortune?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's tricky to fully analyze where the Williams sit at the moment, just because I think it was the circumstances of qualifying with it being slightly changeable conditions, the high wind, um, and I thought Sainz obviously performed to get up to second, was on pole for, like you say, for a long time, and then Verstappen pipped him. And then actually did a really good job, stayed relatively close to Max in the early stages. And I think after like 7 or 8 laps, it was still only like 1.3, 1.5 seconds. I think Max was just sort of getting his tires in, and then that did start stretching out, which we thought it would do anyway. But then and then Carlos built that advantage over Lawson as well. It was about 5 or 6 seconds. It kept building and building and building. He just sort of slowly chugged away and drove away, which again, I think Lawson did great to keep people behind him and was consistent, didn't make any mistakes. And would that be the performance of the car anyway? I know Williams is particularly slippery in a straight line and good in this low downforce setup, which we expected a bit more of in Monza and things. So, But I think it was the sort of drive that Williams hired Carlos Sainz to do. You know, he knows how to win races. He knows how to lead from the front. He knows that he's not. It's not going to be daunting in these positions. Not saying Albon would think any differently, but he got into the position, and you notice that he just sort of chugged away. And like you say, we very rarely saw him. He was probably very happy about that, just chugging away in second. And and he only got leapfrogged by Russell using the alternate strategy in a faster car anyway. I think Russell drove fantastically. We'll get onto him, but I think a really good performance, a great confidence booster for Sainz. And it feels similar. Where you were talking, I was trying to think who was the last. What I'm trying to say is that it's classic that obviously Albon's been at the team for longer. Here we go. I've got it. Albon's been at the team for longer. He's done all the hard work, hasn't been able to get that podium. Then Carlos Sainz struggles, but then gets the podium. It's a little bit like Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and McLaren. Lando's
Yeah,
been there
yeah.
the whole time. Through the doldrums. Piastri was in the doldrums a little bit as well, but then Piastri was the first one to win the sprint in Qatar in, was it
Hmm.
2023? No, it wasn't a full win, but it was like it's the first,
It
he got
was
the
on
first
a
pole, got the
podium of
first win.
some description.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like Lando's been in the whole time, but then Oscar comes and pips in. It felt a little bit like that, but I think if Carlos thoroughly deserved it. In a weekend like that, and conditions like that, you don't luck into a podium, especially not in a Williams. So I think fantastic job. Where do I see Williams at the moment? I don't really know. I think the circuit characteristics did suit them. They did well with the conditions. I think similar to what we'll get onto with Red Bull, Singapore's the next. It will be the proper litmus test. I'll get
Hmm.
onto my views on Verstappen and Red Bull in a bit, but I think let's see how Singapore goes. Two very different style circuits, even though both street circuits, very different car configurations. I think we'll see if we average it out there, we'll see where Williams are.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, can't really say much different. It was nice to see him up front. I would have loved to see him on pole. Wouldn't have stayed
That would
on.
have
He
been
wouldn't
great.
have stayed at the front. But Max has got a job to do, and Max will take his opportunities if McLaren give them to him, which they have done
Mm,
most of the season. When
yeah.
McLaren's aren't firing, Max is taking pole. Uh,
Mm,
so yeah, really solid. We'll have a quick check at the quote that he said there. So finishing third for the day, Baku, and being on the podium is an amazing feeling. I think it's one of the best races ever. Uh, and also to all our Williams fans out there, I can't wait for more to come. Vamos. I
yeah.
did say over the team radio when he crossed the line, it's the first smooth operator of the Williams career. And, you kind of believe him. It feels genuine. I know sometimes they
Mm,
win, they make comments and say things. Lewis Hamilton got a lot of grief because every time he won a race, he said those fans were amazing and the best
mm.
fans. And he go to the next race he won and his fans are the best. And you're like, okay, you're not leaving empty out, but come on, chill, man, chill. We all know we're good, but you don't need to keep telling every single fan, like, you told me I was the best last week. Uh, but yeah, it felt genuine, really
Mm,
pleased. And Vowles he just seems to be the right man.
mm,
And a proper and a good team, Vowles would, I think, do well in most, but Williams is like a proper, even though it's not a family orientated team, it still feels a bit like that, and he's kind of the right man. He seems like
mm.
the right type of man to carry the ethos of that family orientated team, and he's
Yeah,
treating it kind of similar in the way that he goes on. Do you know
I agree.
what? I don't think there's anybody in Williams that wouldn't take a bullet for that man, to be honest.
Mm.
Uh, uh, Christian Horner, maybe Christian Horner might need to look at Vowles and the way that he runs his team and think, maybe, just gonna chill myself back a wee bit. But if I think if Christian Horner tries to make himself more likable, would just be wrong.
A bit creepy. Yeah.
Would just come across just really off, I think. Uh, anyway, we will talk about a certain person later on. Some news broke that will segue into that a wee bit later. But anyway,
Nice.
moving on to second place, not third. George Russell. So George does George the best, where
Mm.
he didn't light up the timing screens. He wasn't like, oh my God, there's George. And then he gets himself in a good position. Firstly, a shout out to George because probably one of his best races. Had felt awful all weekend. I feel your pain. Felt the same. Uh, Probably not the same. But I know what it's like. You get a bit of a bug, you just feel a bit off. He wasn't feeling great at all. He even said it in the post race that he felt awful on Friday, and it kind of gradually got a bit better. But you know yourself when you're not feeling 100%, everything's just a bit of a chore. And this man flings a very expensive and fast car around Baku for 2 hours, gets himself on the podium. Uh, It's a shame that Mercedes hadn't got their car sorted sooner to see this kind of battle, because I think things are starting to get together. The Red Bull's got a few wee minor upgrades that have brought themselves closer to McLaren, and Mercedes seem to have sorted themselves out a wee bit, and they're a wee bit closer, which is what we were expecting at the start of the season. But what's your take on George this weekend? How did you rate his performance, and how far away do you think we are from a George Russell victory this season?
Well, I think it's one of his better races. I think but it's been a very George Russell performance in his best season. I think this has been a symbolic of his season this year, that he's quietly been extremely consistent and quietly getting the most out of that car when the opportunity arises. And we saw it. I think the alternate strategy did help him. Obviously, he went to hards. He went on hards then mediums, rather than a lot of people did mediums and hards, just because of the DRS trains, stopping some progress. Stopping the Lando's progress, stopping the Ferrari's progress at a certain extent. That George sort of held on to the tires, and when he got that free air, he made use of it, and was able to pull a gap on those behind, and take second. I think he was in around fifth or sixth, I want to say. Um, After all shook out after the first lap, because I know Antonelli pushed him wide at turn one at the restart, and he dropped behind Sonoda, things like that. But then
He wasn't
he was able
impressed
to.
with that at all, was
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. Which I was quite like to see about Antonelli. I thought it was quite good to see. He didn't obviously push him too far, but he got his elbows out. But then he just put that consistent pace in to get second, and use the strategy to his advantage. And yeah, obviously even more kudos for he said it at the end of the race, he felt like shit. So that he obviously battled through a flu to get the points, but I think that's just what we've come to expect from George Russell, that he's going to be a very consistent performer and get the maximum out of it when he needs to. So yeah, fantastic performance. I don't know about a win. I think these cooler conditions do help. I believe, did he win in Canada? Yeah, he did win in Canada. So he's won one already this season, but I think the cooler conditions do seem to suit the Mercedes. They weren't exactly close. They weren't miles off in Monza, but they weren't exactly fighting for the win there either. So I know they think Vegas could be another win, and there'd be an opportunity for a win there with the cooler conditions, and they absolutely dominated last year. So I know Ferrari think there's similar ways there. So I think it's hard. I find it hard to judge this weekend, just because of the craziness of qualifying. It's the mucked up grid, and then uh, the wind and the conditions on race. They weren't too bad, but because of the mucked up grid, it felt a little bit like he just took advantage of a slightly faster car than the rest of them. So again, let's see what Singapore brings. But I think he's been fantastic this season. I think he has to be up there for driver of the season. I don't think he'll quite win it, but I think he's definitely going to be in the conversation.
Oh, definitely. And actually, my question has a wee bit not as much weight about winning, because I actually forgot he won at Canada. I'm just that used to the McLarens or Max Verstappen winning.
Yeah,
I
that's
assumed
fair
it was one of
enough.
them. So Formula One, your calendar's too long. Uh,
Yeah.
Anyway, so hey, I'm like, I'll rewind that, and I'll do it in post. Do you think he'll win another race this season? Anyway, moving on. I'm not going to change it because I can't be bothered. So yeah, that was our top three, Max Verstappen. So we'll go on to Max now.
Mm.
There isn't much to say. This was like almost 2023 Max. He gets himself a pole, gets himself the fastest lap. You don't really see him to the end of the race. There was literally not much needing done. He even admitted himself, because he wasn't in dirty air, they can manage the tyres. I don't think that engine power unit had much wear on it at all. I think he was just cruising around, doing what he needed to do. He had Carlos Sainz second for quite a wee while, then Russell. By the time Russell got second, he was, what, 30 odd seconds in front.
Yeah.
There isn't much to really say. He wasn't really troubled, was he?
No. I think
The
we barely
only
saw him as well, really, didn't
yeah,
we?
that's the thing. I think the camera operator or director decided to put it onto Max just to check he was still there. Yeah,
Yeah.
just have a look there, guys.
There he
Give
is.
something for the sponsors there. As usual, right, wait, back to fifth place. So yeah, you can't really
Yeah.
say much more. It's Max,
Mm.
and like we kind of mentioned this at the start. I can't remember if it was the start I was chatting, or if it was just before we came on. That if he gets himself a championship, I don't really think you can argue about who's the most talented generational talent at this point in time. I'd never like these conversations about who's the GOAT altogether. For anyone over the age of 20, GOAT is the greatest of all time. Which I learned the hard way because I'm like, why is everybody calling him a GOAT? What is that? Yeah, anyway, so I figured that one out.
Mm, that's good.
But you can, in Formula One, you can't do that. I don't think you can. You can say Max is probably a generational driver and probably the best at the moment, but who's to say that peak Senna wasn't going to be the best in these cars, and who's to say that Max was going to be the best in the cars that Senna run all his time in? Like Formula One moves along in terms of hardware and what they drive. It's just a difficult thing. I mean, I don't think Max Verstappen would be able to race the way Fangio did way back in the 50s
Mm,
and those death traps that those guys. I mean, those guys were warriors when it came, and it wasn't that fast, but fast for its time. And the fact that it was safer to be launched from the car than stay in it when you have an accident just says all you need to know. But like, he surely is one of, if you're putting a Hall of Fame together, or you're putting just a list of bona fide, full-on talent drivers. You've got your Sennas, Prost, Clark, Fangio, Max Verstappen, not Norris, Jesus, Hamilton. You've got a group, and he has to be one of the
mm,
main ones now. And I think even I still don't think he will. I think he's about 60 odd points. There still has to be a few other things going on. Take it. He needs to be there to win every opportunity he can. So, like at the moment, he is, but if he misses one more big opportunity, but the McLarens don't really do as well, then I think you're kind of nailing it on the head. I don't think it's going to take much to finish it off. But if he continues to do what he's doing and just picking up the 25 points every time McLaren don't, he's there.
mm.
And even if he gets himself firmly in the conversation, you kind of have to put that as a win for him because look how far back they were when it was McLaren 1-2, 1-2, 2-1. It was constant. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a minute, could he do it? Could he bring
Mm.
himself back in? And it's just, there's not many more things you can say about Max at the minute. Much to the chagrin, probably. It's probably getting to the point now where Lewis Hamilton fans are kind of going, actually, do you know what? He's not actually that bad. For a long time, they're like, oh, he's rubbish, Lewis is better. And now you're like, actually, but he
Yeah.
might have had a point. Speaking of which, we'll jump on to the match. Before we do, we'll just quickly go down. Fourth place was Kimi Antonelli. Quick chat about him. That's a really good confidence booster.
Mm.
Done really well. He was driving really well. Wasn't a lot of mistakes in there. Uh, and I think it's kind of a race that he really needs. Get himself up there in fourth place, which is exactly what Mercedes want.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, quite happy to see that. But behind him, Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda battle the Red Bulls. Lawson will take that as a confidence booster because he's just beat the guy who took his seat off him. But regardless of that kind of wee soap story going on there, both those guys have been struggling all season. And I don't really see them doing much more than what they did. Honestly, what about yourself? Do you think that Lawson Tsunoda could probably put that down as a good win for them?
Yeah, I think that's Sonoda's best race performance in a Red Bull, I want to say. I don't think he's been higher than sixth place since he joined. So I think that's good for him. And I think he only scored like 12 points all season before this, and now he's nearly doubled that. So that's good. And Lawson, I think Lawson's had a quiet, very good streak of the last 5 or 6 races. I want to say. I know he did particularly
Mm.
well in Hungary, and he's been slowly rebuilding his confidence and rebuilding his brand, if we want to call it. And I think I do think Sonoda's going to be the replacement for Sonoda. Sorry, Hadjar's going to be the replacement for Sonoda. I don't see Red Bull holding on to Sonoda, and I think we've seen that Red Bull once they put a driver in the car, they don't do particularly well. We haven't seen them be put back in the car. So I think
No.
Hadjar's going to be the first choice of the 2026 seat. But if anything, if I'm Lawson, I'm thinking, fine, leave me in Racing Ball for another year. Let me build it. He still hasn't done a full year, so a full season, Lawson. So they've got to put that into a bit of context. But I think it's good performance for both of them. I think for Sonoda, it's probably more important for Sonoda than it was Lawson, weirdly, because I think Sonoda was in and around it. If he'd got past him, I think it would have been great for him. But this is his best performance of the year, and he looked just more on the pace, even though he was behind Verstappen. But that's just Verstappen's his own case. So I think for Sonoda, it's the best performance for him. But I think that, yeah, I think it's good all round there. Really, Lawson just proven that he's a match for Hadjar. Hadjar's got the fancy results so far, but Lawson's building that nicely.
Yeah, I think Lawson had a couple of races at the start when he first moved. I think Miami was a bad one when he had a bit of an
Mm,
accident with Alonso. He was kind of getting himself, tripping himself up. And for a long time, and I can't remember, but I'm sure I mentioned this in the pod, he was proving Red Bull right by
mm,
demoting him. And you're right, he's just turned that around. He's got a car that suits him. That car's really well designed. It's a really good, just generally good car. It's not spectacular. It's not a bucket. It's just a nice car, a good car for guys to really get underneath and get it's got a nice operating window for them to find their sweet spot, which we know the Red Bull main car doesn't. And that's why every second driver just can't quite get a handle on it. We'll quickly touch on the Ferraris now. They came eighth and ninth. Hamilton beat his partner in crime, Leclerc, but they'll be disappointed with eighth and ninth, especially with the way that the McLarens were driving. Still never managed to get ahead of Norris as the way things shook out. It's just a season of disappointment for them, isn't it? And
mm,
mediocrity, which again is just very Ferrari and unbelievably frustrating. I don't know how the Tifosi are surviving because if I'm not a bona fide Ferrari fan, and I do like them, I do have a soft spot for them with their history and everything else. Uh, and if it wasn't for McLaren, potentially probably would be the team that I would follow if I had to pick one. Uh, but if I'm finding it frustrating, how are the Tifosi surviving? I mean,
mm.
there's a lot of anger, and let's be honest here. For anyone who doesn't know, like Ferrari's performance in Formula One's front page news in Italy. They have a very no other team gets treated the way that Ferrari do in terms of it's almost a national scandal when things go wrong for Ferrari in Formula One. Uh, I'd imagine it's probably slightly similar, maybe not to the same extent with the other kind of categories who drive in, but Ferrari's held to a very different standard uh, than any other team around Formula One. But what did they do? What did he do? I don't know what they do. What did he do, James? Tell me.
Well, it was a bit of a tricky weekend because they looked quite quick I think Lewis topped FP2, I want to say.
Well, they were
But
first and
again,
second in
yeah,
FP1, and then they were looking decent in FP2, and then
it
they
does seem
Ferrari'd
to
themselves.
it does seem to do that. I feel that seems to be, especially with Lewis, it seems to be a consistent problem that they show promise in FP1, FP2, and obviously engine modes are down, the people are taking it a little bit easier, and they don't seem to quite get it in qualifying. Obviously, Leclerc crashed in Q3 to start 10th. And again, Lewis was in and around it, and it just this Q2, I'm going to call it a curse. This Q2 curse that he seems to have that it just doesn't seem to be able to himself or Ferrari never seem to be able to quite get it right in Q2, and he seems to. Was it the sixth time he hasn't made Q3 this season,
Mm.
which is quite a lot of. Was it like 17, 18 races? And this was another one when I know he said he wanted to start. He actually wanted the mediums in that final run in Q2, but got the softs, and it didn't pan out. And it's just a lot. There's a lot going on. I think Ferrari now. I think they've just got to hope they hang on in the Czech constructors, and if they're not, I'm sure they have done already. But put everything into 2026 because it's been a bad year for them. But then also it's they haven't exactly proved themselves good at adapting to new rule changes either. So
Yeah,
they're just a bit all over the shop, to be honest. And this is what you should really expect from Ferrari. It's just a lot of ups and downs, unfortunately. And because again, they show good pace, and you think Leclerc may have got it on pole as he's had it last fall, but this Ferrari just isn't quite the same as it was um, in the last couple of years, especially back at last year where it looks so quick. They're probably all scratching their heads about how it's gone so horribly wrong. But I don't know what they do. I think they've just got to try and move on, get 2026 going, and see what happens there. But the form doesn't exactly favour them.
it doesn't, and it's still this flatter to deceive sort of thing, and
Mm.
they look so great, and we're like it's going to be a McLaren and Ferrari battle, and then they just take two steps back. It's just so frustrating. Anyway, moving on before I end up
Mm.
crying in a corner thinking about Ferrari and Ferrari fans. I think they're really good. There was a really great sign from a fan at Baku. It was on the socials where she said that supporting Ferrari is my red flag. I'm like,
Nice.
yeah, okay, yeah,
That's
yeah,
a good
good
one.
call. That's a good
That's a
call.
good one.
Rounding up the top 10 then was Hadja, got himself some more points. He's doing well quietly after the first race. He's just quietly getting on with it.
Mm,
I'll quickly run down the top 11. There's not really much to say about Ajay Hadja that we haven't already said. It was a
yeah.
pretty anonymous race, really. I don't remember much going on, but he got himself into a point. Uh, his teammate was up in fifth, so I suppose he's a wee bit disappointed by that. But, you still get yourself a point. You're a rookie. You kind of take the wins when they're wins.
Tick
Uh,
over.
before
Yeah.
before I jump on, Jared Bradley on the socials there has put a comment in. No time to watch Max. Lawson's defender was too exciting. You're right, but we didn't have a chance. We didn't have a choice to watch
Mm.
Max because they never showed us him. So unless you have like the
I
timing screens or you were on Sky and put the red button on and just watched him drive round and do nothing, then
that'd be a bit boring.
yeah,
I
Lawson was
also
good though.
I also think Lawson didn't have to do that much defending though. Like he had to defend a couple
Yeah.
times, but there was never really like, scramble across the track or
He
defending
wasn't
hard or
having to move left and position
no.
himself. He was just taking the line. And again, I don't know, is that the cars, the dirty air, is that, or is
Mm,
that just because the car was just at the right bit and just enough speed to keep himself away? I mean, he
mm,
didn't have any DRS at the front, but he
no,
didn't seem like he was scrambling to keep it there. So,
no, it's true.
yeah, I'll quickly run down the nine other cars that finished. Bortoleto was 11th, Beerman 12th, Albon 13th, Ocon 14th, Alonso 15th. Hulkenberg got 16th, Stroll down there in 17th, and then it was the least said about the Alpines, the better, with Gasly in 18th and Colapinto taking up the rear. Coming up the rear, not taking it up the rear, that is a really bad trip up of words. And Colapinto. DNF, the only one was Piastri. Quickly touching on Albon, he was the second of the two Williams, had a bit of a clumsy weekend,
Mm.
not really something we're used to seeing from Albon. He was one of the first. I think he was the first red flag
The
over the
first
over
red
the
flag,
qualifying.
yeah.
Took the corner too light again, very much like me driving the Formula One game, too tight. Hit the front wheel, off goes the suspension, and then trips himself up with, I want to say, Colapinto diving down the inside at the same corner
Yeah.
where Piastri goes off, spins him round. It was never a pass. It was a 5 second penalty. It was a 10 second penalty, actually. My
10
apologies.
second, yeah.
It was a penalty all day long. That's not a conversation we need to have, really.
Yeah.
Ruined his race because he had to go on for his 10 seconds and it took off a bit of the front end plate as well. Poor old Colapinto got punted in. He's got a boss called Flavio Briatore. So you really don't want to have a Williams spinning you into the barrier because Briatore will figure out a way to make it your fault.
Yeah.
Uh, the only other one that I really want to touch on was Alonso, got himself 15th, got himself a 5 second penalty because he moved because Piastri moved, owned it. Not much else you could say. That Aston Martin really isn't going anywhere. And that's it. I mean,
Mm.
there wasn't really any, from 11th to 19th, other than those couple of wee bits. I don't think there was really much that happened or much that really stood out. It was, other than the first lap, there wasn't really a lot that was
No.
oh, this could happen or that could happen. It kind of stabilized itself and stayed there, which
Mm.
is unfortunate, really.
I think there was a lot of near, especially the long straights, there was a lot of near misses. So people had DRS, couldn't quite get close enough. Or if they did pass, they would pass them by the start, by the start finish line. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
feel like so no,
it wasn't
it wasn't like a dive bombs into the first
I
corner,
dive
anything
into
like
the
that.
corner and that was a
Yeah,
good pass. It was you're either not passing or you're doing it with like a
yeah,
quarter of the
easy.
straight to spare. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it was a wee bit disappointing. Before we
mm,
move on, we've got a wee bit of news to discuss. I did some when I did a wee podcast, for anyone who doesn't know, I did a wee half hour myself to preview this. It's on our YouTube channel only. Just thought we'd decide to do that as a wee exclusive. And also we still are running the competition, but we'll talk about those details later. So my prediction was Piastri on pole with Norris in first, Leclerc taking second, and George Russell in third. A wild card was Piastri wouldn't finish. I forgot that I'd done that, and my son Morgan, who does comment on these occasionally on some of these things, did actually turn around and text me and go, "You called it," and I went, "What do you mean?" And he went, "You said in your podcast that he would that Piastri would crash out," and my reasoning was just I wanted the championship fight to be closer again. That's why I put Norris first and Piastri not taking it. I got part of it right.
hey,
Russell
we'll
was on the
take that.
podium, so I'm going to take it.
Yeah,
It's probably the closest I'm ever going to be because, as you know, we're not very good at these predictions, and that's why they're predictions.
yeah.
Somebody will nail it. I think Morgan's the only one I think he got the top three right in one of the races, and it was he didn't realise it until I told him. So we're actually
That's
quite good at
the
remembering them as well. So,
that's the golden goose, though, isn't it? The top three. That's what we're all fighting
yeah,
for.
just you want that. I mean,
Mm.
maybe at some point in the future, maybe in 2035, one of us will come up with a grand slam and do the whole lot,
Yeah,
just
oh,
pure
yeah.
luck, and then that night we're putting on the lottery numbers, whatever they say. Uh, but maybe next week, depends who we've got on for the podcast for the preview of the Singapore Grand Prix, which is in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll do that podcast next week. Because it'll be next Monday. We'll do that Monday, Tuesday. We'll put that
Yeah.
out there. So anyway, that kind of covers everything at Baku. I don't think there was much more. Was there anything you wanted to discuss, James, that you picked up on, or we kind of covered our bases in that one?
Yeah, I think so. I think the only thing I'd add was just looking at Verstappen's form at low downforce circuits. I think the races he's won or done particularly well at. I think Imola with big long straight, you know, low downforce-ish, setup. Monza, similar. Now Azerbaijan, very similar as well. So I think that well, again, Singapore will be the litmus test. If Verstappen's suddenly very quick there as well and fighting for the win, then we'll know potentially that the championship fight could be back on. And then we've got circuits like Circuit of the Americas, Qatar, which very much suit the McLaren. So I think this might have been a accumulation of many factors that helped him win this race. But he's done particularly well in the low downforce setups, and the McLarens don't seem to be hugely advantageous in those setups. So I think Singapore is going to be the real test to see if this championship is well and truly back on.
Yeah, it's getting there. The problem is Singapore is a high downforce circuit,
Exactly.
and Red Bull, even in their dominant year, that was the only year they didn't win a race, and that was when Carlos Sainz won it a couple of years back,
Yeah.
2023, I think it was.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't see them doing much there. It's known that it's not really a circuit they're happy with. Now that I've said that, and we'll probably discuss it more on the preview pod next weekend, he'll go out there and do the Grand Slam, and then
Yeah.
everyone will be wondering what the hell, and reevaluating their own life choices. Uh, so the only other thing to discuss before I do that, I've got a quick couple of comments. I'll just have a check. I put a couple of things up on the socials. With the lack of points, so this is what I put up on the socials. Remember, follow them. We're on all of them. Don't make me list them again, please. With the lack of points for Lando come back to bite him later on in the season. So that was what I put up on the socials. We've got a couple of comments, not many. Please go on there and share your thoughts. Norris should have swapped positions with Oscar at the end of the race. Only fair. I think that's somebody digging because of other issues.
Yeah.
The team admitted the car was slow, but somehow the lack of competitive is still Lando's fault. No idea what happened. Surely Baku should have suited the car. I don't know what you mean about Lando's fault. I don't think
Mm.
that's what I mean by that. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I'm just asking because of his opportunity. As we discussed, it was a big opportunity missed for him. Will this come back? When we look back on our season review at the end of the season, probably kind of mid-December, is this something that we'll look back with the benefit of hindsight and think, yeah, that was probably a point where if he'd maybe done that. And again, you touched on that with in 2021, where the magic button was pressed and Hamilton went straight down and Verstappen was out. Like that would have won him his eighth championship. He's probably retired, enjoying what he's doing now. But that's a kind of sliding doors moment, I suppose. If there are multi universes, we could go and maybe see them and see if that did actually happen. Um, so somebody here, Joseph, has asked Joseph Diagamo, right? I've destroyed that name. My apologies. He has asked me to use this in the podcast. Zach Brown order, apparently. But in all seriousness, Lando Norris has himself to blame yet again. When the safety car came out, Max bunched to pack up, as he does. But did
Mm.
you notice Lando got caught napping and judged the start wrong, hence why Leclerc passed him?
Yep.
If he did get that wrong, if he didn't get that wrong, I think is what he meant to say, he possibly would have moved back up the pack more. It's a question. I didn't. I forgot about that. I didn't notice it at the time. It was discussed after the race on Sky. Yeah, he did. He got it all wrong. The
Yeah.
revs were nowhere near where they needed to be. He was miles behind by the time the restart happened. And this is what I've said about Lando Norris in the past. These wee half mistakes, these wee things that just lose him a tenth or two. Whether it be qualifying when he's trying to put in a really hard lap, or whether it be first lap when he's on pole and he dips a wheel into the gravel and loses a couple of spots. These are the wee things that accumulate. So not taking your opportunity in these wee minor mistakes. When you've got someone like Piastri who doesn't do the wee small mistake, when he makes mistakes, he does it well. Let's face it. This Grand Prix was good. This weekend was good. Bin it in the wall, false start, crashing. They all done that within a first lap. Yeah, very well done. Charles Leclerc did the same thing in Monaco a few years ago, if you remember. Got himself pole, had an issue, was right at the back. You were like, as soon as he started, like he's driving angry, didn't even make it around the lap, binned it. You're like, okay, when you're going to go out in a place of glory, is what I think. So he's not wrong. As Joseph, that was well spotted actually. Then the pit stop conspiracy theorists have this as a sabotage towards Lando being the second slow pit stop. I had no idea where that's coming from. Like that's not a thing. Let's come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, there's some other things going on there in that message, but it was good that you got yourself involved. So yeah, in terms of at the end of every race, I ask our Facebook faithful to rate the Grand Prix. So we have classic or great, hated it, boring, okay me. It was all right, but nothing exciting. So we had 1,400 votes. Would you like to put forward what you thought the Facebook fans thought of it out of those three? And just a shout out, I'm not nagging, but there's about 30 of you that didn't know which emoji to press. Now I've got them there, but some of you, every single weekend, you either put a love heart, a like button. They aren't the choices. Please go back and take a moment to look at what. Sorry, being a dad there. Sorry, my apologies. So, your three options. Crap. Okay, great. What did you
I want
think?
to say okay.
So you're going with the me. Let me
Yeah.
just check. And you would be right.
Yeah.
So 642 went meh. 551 went boring. With only 257. All of them Max Verstappen fans. Thought it was great. And it was a classic. Definitely was not a classic, but I don't think it was necessarily boring. It would
No.
have been if it wasn't for the Piastri thing at the start, because that gave us
Hmm.
something to talk about. So that is the Baku Grand Prix. Give me a rating out of 10 before we move on to the only major bit of news to discuss.
6.
Yeah, I'm kind of doing that myself. 6. I think it would be somewhere around the 5 fours if it wasn't for Piastri and maybe even
Yeah.
Lando Norris having his wee wobble. Because this is the thing that I've noticed about Formula One, especially this season. A lot of races have like the ingredients to be good, but there's always just that one wee bit missing that makes it happen. Like the
Yeah.
threat of rain, and then was spitting and it was going to rain, and then it never did. There's always just that wee tease. Like, because if it did rain properly, where there might have been like intermediates or something, that would have been exciting. That would have been amazing because Baku in the wet, with people are chasing each other. That's
Yeah,
going to
that'd
be
be good.
expensive. But it just didn't happen. And then I was watching the post show, and I looked behind Bernie Collins, who, by the way, is amazing at what she does. And I looked behind her, it was peeing down, soaking. The paddock was a mess. Like I think Mother Nature likes to tease us occasionally. It's Formula One
Yeah.
fans. I think that's the problem. So yeah, I would probably agree with you. I'd probably go with a 6 myself. Not that I'm copying. I think there was a couple of things to talk about. We've managed to talk about it for about an hour, so at least it was something.
Yep.
So that's that. One big piece of news broke that her man, Christian Horner, has left Red Bull. Now, before I get emails, before we get texts, because you don't have my number, so how you would text me is I don't know how you do that, or get onto our WhatsApp group because we have one of them too, or any kind of DMs to say he left in July. No, he didn't. He was removed as team principal in July. Basically told he was going to find him another job or some other duties. Basically put in a wardrobe or a cupboard somewhere at the road. So they've finally announced that he's gone completely, with a payoff of around, reportedly, somewhere in the region of 60 million euro or 52 million pounds, which is what the figure quoted by Andrew Benson from the BBC. They finally decided to cut ties altogether with him. He had a contract which was valued at around £10 million per year up until 2030. Big power struggle after all the stuff that happened about 18 months ago with the allegations of sexual harassment from a female colleague within Red Bull, which the allegations were investigated and he was found that he was innocent. So, and there was nothing came of that, but it caused some issues. We all knew this would happen, I think, at the time. So I think you were with us at the time it all broke, actually, James. Back then, my personal opinion was that this was kind of the beginning of the end because Adrian Newey's went away. Is it Wheatley that used to work with them? He's now away. He works with
Sauber.
Sauber. There's the Marshalls at, I want to
Rob
say he's at
Marshall.
McLaren.
Yeah.
Rob Marshall's at
He's at McLaren.
McLaren.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
is, yeah.
So a lot of the kind of big hitters within Red Bull all started to go, and we know where Adrian Newey's ended up. So, what do you make? That's kind of the line. Like we've drawn the line over the Christian Horner era at Red Bull. Officially, that's it all done. But my goodness, that man has himself a bit of pocket money, isn't he?
He does indeed. I think it was inevitable that was going to happen. That, like they said, when he stepped down in, oh, blimey, when was it? Just after the British Grand Prix, I want to say. He'd stepped down from his position but hadn't left yet. I know there was obviously going to be a lot of legal issues, get him out of the contract, and there was going to be some decent redundancy pay or whatever, as he's been there for a long time. But yeah, I think I don't think he was strapped for cash in the first place anyway. But
No.
nice little payoff for him. But I think one thing that's been reported that's interesting that he agreed on the severance and everything so that he could enter Formula One again as early as summer 2026, which is an interesting detail that I've seen on some of these reports. Maybe that's just people saying, well, now because it would be like 12 months gardening leave or whatever that is. They'll be able to start at summer 2026. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Christian Horner back in Formula One. Does he need to be? Probably not, because he's got all the money in the world and can do other things. But I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back, because I don't think people like that leave under and under that cloud or against his wishes. So I can imagine he wanted to come back and show people that he can be that game changer, which he very much has been for Red Bull. So we'll see. But yeah, nice little payday for Christian Horner. New era for Red Bull, which seems to be working relatively well. And we'll
Yeah, I
see.
do.
I'm sure we'll see it back. I'm sure we'll see
Yeah,
it back.
he's not going to leave. He's too much of an arrogant. He's got too much
Mm,
arrogance and ego about him to just be like, oh, it's fine, I'll just go somewhere. I mean, unless nobody else wants him, I still
mm,
think that Alpine will probably look at him, even if
mm.
it is summer next year. And I think the reason that it's taken so long for things to be sorted out is because of those details about gardening leave and
Yeah.
these contracts for especially someone like Christian, who's he was the head man in the powertrain department. He was the head man in the team principal side of it. He wanted a lot of control, which apparently was part of the reason why the Porsche deal for Red Bull didn't go through, because he wanted more control and wouldn't allow Red Bull to have that. And so Porsche went, oh well. So, yeah, huge miss. I think that's a huge miss of Red Bull, and I think that's part of one of the reasons why he's probably went as well, when they've kind of looked back at him, look over his tenure in the recent month. But yeah, I mean, I still, even to this day, I still think Alpine will take him. I think he's close pals with Flavio Briatore. I think Flavio will bring his man in and just let him get on with it. He'll become a part owner, because that's a big thing. I think he looks at his kind of arch nemesis in Total Wolff, and we've all seen it. For MJ who's watched the Drive to Survive series, the early ones, but when Cyril Abiteboul left, and then it was the whole situation between Red Bull and Max and Lewis in 2021. Even Drive to Survive, the Sky stuff, like they were constantly jabbing at each other, were constantly going on. The biggest difference between the two of them is Toto Wolff is a third part owner of the team he's in. So it takes a lot to remove somebody who owns a third of the team,
Mm.
because the Mercedes is owned by Ineos, Daimler, and Total Wolff. Like that's it. Like, and how do you go in and sack somebody who owns a third of the team? I mean, is he going to take his ball and play? Is he going to take three of the wheels away? Whereas Christian Horner was an employee, and when you're an employee and you've lost the kind of the backing of certain amount of people, then you're out, and that's literally, it doesn't matter what you've done over 20 years in the sport. Like that's it, you're gone, and that's literally what happened. He lost the backing of one particular powerful man within the kind of stakeholder makeup of what Red Bull is, and there was already enough people that didn't like him because he kind of is that character. And I suppose in some respects you kind of do have to rub people up the wrong way to get where you need to be within Formula One and get things done. It's a very intense, scrutineered atmosphere, and when you're a team principal, you need to have the cojones behind you to do that. But you kind of do it yourself. And if you're an employee, you're at the whim of the powers above you, as we are, as just normal people with jobs. Unless you're, self-employed, you're still at the mercy of, with obviously certain protections. But and these contracts that these guys sign aren't just 2 or 3 pages. You're talking books with a lot of lawyers and lots of conversations back and forth. But I mean, he's got himself a decent lawyer because he can afford it, and
Mm.
he's got himself some decent amount of money. However that's structured, if that's just a one pay deal where it just goes in, or it's structured in a certain way, or has he taken a bit less so that he can get a shorter gardening leave? I mean, it's not really gardening leave because he's not there anymore. They've
Mm.
obviously just agreed to pay him this in the proviso that you don't get another job within Formula One until, summer of 2026, as you say, which means he'd come in halfway through a season, which is pretty smart of Red Bull because they know they might have lost favour with the person, but they know he's good at what he does. So you take a rival like Alpine, who's they're going to be arguably losing one of the better power units next season, if that's true. That's what the rumours are. But if they're one of the better cars and he goes into them, and then they're and the rumour is that the Red Bull powertrain is not as good as they want it to be. It's got a built-in deficit. Then you want to protect that a wee bit as best you can. You don't want your man who might know your secrets to be jumping over, because he'll know some stuff about the 2026 regulations even now. So yeah, Christian Horner's at home. He's now 60 million euro richer, and he's already rich bank account. And I don't think there's any doubt. I think Christian will be back. Cadillac have said that he's a no. That's one thing I did think that would be quite cool. Bottas, Perez, and Christian Horner. But Cadillac have came out pretty much emphatically and put that rumour to bed almost as soon as they heard it. Not very many options outside of maybe Alpine. I think that's it really. They're not Sauber and Audi aren't getting rid of Wheatley because they've kind of put their eggs on that basket. Stella's baked into where he's baked in at McLaren. He's not going to go to a team that's just going to be an employee, as we've kind of mentioned, but that's my thoughts anyway. So I think, and he's pals with Flavio. He's known Flavio for a long, long time. So I think that's logically the only real place to go. And I think Alpine haven't said that the guy is the team principal longer term. They've kind of I don't even know who he is. Actually, I can't remember. But whoever the guy is isn't somebody I think he's like a team manager or something. Maybe he is a team principal now, but so they haven't made much effort to fill the role. And is that because they're having conversations with Christian at the moment? Maybe he comes in as an owner, doesn't really do anything because he's not allowed to. Then he comes in and actually becomes the owner because I mean it's Flavio. Flavio will know the workarounds and how to have him in the team, but not in the team. So we'll see how that one bubbles out. I'm sure we'll see Christian swan in some kind of team merch with his denims on as well. Jerry Halliwell running behind him, doing his thing. And it'll just rub up social media the wrong way because he's pretty good at that.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's about it. Not much more to report. There wasn't really much news outside of what happened in the race. Like I say, I am Coops. This was James. We are Everything F1. We're on all the socials, including YouTube, X, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. You can find us on Everything F1 on YouTube, official EF1 or EF1 official on TikTok, and at Join EF1 on all the other socials. Not Snapchat. That was a rumour from earlier on in the podcast. We are still running our competition to win a Speed Champions Lego set of a team of your choice. All 10 of them are represented in that range. If you subscribe to YouTube, that's all you need to do. Your subscription to YouTube. Once we hit 500 and once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we'll pick a name out of the hat and we will send you over, whether it be the actual Lego set or whether, depending on where you are in the world, maybe a voucher for the amount of the Lego set. We will have that. We'll look at that closer to the time. We'll figure something out for you depending on where you are in the world. But yeah, go over, subscribe to us. We'll do what we can to get some more videos on there, some more interviews and things as the season progresses. And next weekend there is no races next weekend, but the weekend after we're going back to Singapore, so we will get a discussion around all of that, probably early next week, Tuesday, Wednesday or something. I think we'll get a couple of us on, we'll have a conversation about Singapore. Quite like the track, the original night race. So pretty decent. There's always usually something to talk about. Now that I've jinxed it, it's going to be an absolute procession. But my name's Coops. This is James. Thank you very much. Take care. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.